They said it would never happen. They said these two monsters respected each other too much. They said the brotherhood of powerhouses was unbreakable. Well, they were dead wrong. Because what Bronson Reed just did to Bron Breakker wasn't just a betrayal, it was an absolute assassination. And if you think WWE is going to let this slide, if you think there won't be consequences, then you haven't been paying attention to the absolute carnage that just unfolded. Right now, as I'm recording this, Bron Breakker is in critical condition. Let that sink in. Critical condition. This isn't some worked injury for storyline purposes. This isn't Breakker taking a few days off to sell an attack. Medical personnel are genuinely concerned, and backstage sources are saying this might be one of the most vicious assaults in recent WWE history. And the man responsible? The same man who smiled in Bron's face, shook his hand, and pretended to have his back, Bronson Reed. But here's what's eating me alive, and here's what should be making your blood boil right now. Reed didn't just attack Breakker. He didn't just hit him with one tsunami. He didn't stop at two. Reports are saying Reed hit 5 consecutive tsunamis on Breakker. 5, each one more devastating than the last, each one driving Bron deeper into the canvas, crushing his ribs, collapsing his chest, turning one of WWE's most dominant forces into a broken, helpless victim. And you want to know the sickest part? Reed was laughing, standing over Breakker's motionless body, that twisted smile across his face, looking down at the destruction he caused like some deranged artist admiring his masterpiece. This wasn't business. This wasn't competition. This was personal. This was calculated. This was a man who wanted to end another man's career, and he didn't care who knew it. Now, before we go any further, I need you to answer this in the comments. Do you think Bronson Reed went too far, or is this exactly the kind of ruthless aggression WWE has been missing? Because I'm telling you right now, the wrestling community is divided on this, and I want to know where Wrestling Zone 1 stands. Let's rewind and talk about how we got here, because this betrayal didn't come out of nowhere, even though it felt like it did. For weeks, Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker had this unspoken understanding. Two absolute units, two powerhouses who could throw grown men around like children, two guys who seemed destined to eventually collide but always showed each other a certain level of respect. They weren't friends, but they weren't enemies either. They were aware of each other, respectful, professional. Also, we thought. Looking back now, were there signs? Were there subtle hints that Reed was harboring this darkness, this jealousy, this absolute hatred for Breakker? Because here's the thing, while Bron Breakker has been getting pushed to the moon, while he's been in high-profile matches and getting championship opportunities, where has Bronson Reed been? He's been doing the dirty work. He's been in the trenches. He's been putting on absolute bangers and not getting nearly the recognition he deserves. And maybe, just maybe, that's what broke him. Maybe Reed looked at Breakker, saw everything he wanted for himself, saw the golden boy of WWE's next generation, and something inside him just snapped. Maybe this wasn't about respect at all. Maybe this was about Reed finally deciding that if he couldn't get to the top by playing by the rules, he'd get there by removing the competition permanently. Here's another question for the comments, and I really want your honest opinion on this. Is Bronson Reed justified in his actions if he genuinely believes he's been overlooked while Bron Breakker got handed everything? Drop your thoughts below. Now let's talk about what actually happened, because the footage is disturbing. According to eyewitnesses backstage, Breakker was walking through the corridor after what seemed like a successful night. He'd just finished a segment, he was riding high, probably thinking about his next move up the card. And that's when Reed struck. The first tsunami came out of nowhere. Breakker never saw it coming. Reed had been waiting, stalking, positioning himself perfectly. And when Bron turned that corner, boom. 330 pounds of pure malicious intent came crashing down from the top rope in the backstage area. Breakker went down hard, but Reed didn't stop there. Oh no, because if he'd stopped there, maybe we could call this a heat-of-the-moment decision. Maybe we could say Reed just wanted to make a statement. But what happened next proves this was premeditated murder on live television. Reed dragged Breakker's unconscious body, positioned him near some equipment cases, climbed up again, and hit a second tsunami. Medical staff tried to rush in, but Reed threatened them away. He wasn't done. He had a point to prove, and Bron Breakker's broken body was going to be the canvas he painted it on. Third tsunami. Fourth tsunami. By this point, Breakker wasn't moving. He wasn't responding. His eyes were glazed over. And still, Reed climbed one more time. That fifth tsunami? That was just cruelty. That was Reed saying to the entire WWE locker room, to Triple H, to Adam Pearce, to everyone, I don't care about your rules anymore. I don't care about your consequences. I am the most dangerous man in this company, and I will do whatever I want. The medical team finally got to Breakker after Reed walked away, and what they found was horrifying. Potential broken ribs, possible internal bleeding, concussion symptoms, and respiratory distress. They had to bring out a stretcher. They had to put a neck brace on him. Bron Breakker, the man who's been booked as unstoppable, was taken out of the arena on a stretcher. And here's where it gets even more insane. Reed cut a promo afterward. This absolute psychopath grabbed a microphone and said, and I quote, "I'm tired of watching lesser talents get opportunities that should be mine. Bron Breakker was just the first name on my list. Everyone else, you better watch your backs, because the tsunami is coming for all of you." A list? He has a list. This isn't a one-time thing. Reed is declaring war on the entire WWE roster, and he just proved he's willing to end careers to get what he wants. Quick question for engagement: who do you think is next on Bronson Reed's list? Give me 3 names in the comments. Now, let's talk about the aftermath and what this means for WWE moving forward. Because whether this is a work that went too far or a shoot that WWE is scrambling to control, the implications are massive. First, there's the legal aspect. If Bron Breakker is legitimately injured to the extent being reported, could he pursue legal action against Reed? Could WWE be held liable for not controlling their talent? We've seen wrestlers break the fourth wall before, but this feels different. This feels real in a way that makes everyone uncomfortable. Second, what does WWE do with Bronson Reed now? Do they suspend him? Do they fire him? Or, and this is what I think is going to happen, do they lean into this and make Reed the most dangerous heel in the company? Because let's be honest, love him or hate him, everyone's going to want to see what Bronson Reed does next. Everyone's going to tune in to see if someone finally puts him down. And third, most importantly, what happens when Bron Breakker comes back? Because he will come back. Men like Breakker don't stay down. They don't forget. They don't forgive. And when he returns, when he's cleared medically and mentally ready to step back in that ring, the match between Breakker and Reed is going to be volcanic. Imagine it, Bron Breakker returns, maybe at a premium live event, maybe on Raw, and he's got one thing on his mind: revenge. The pop would be insane. The storytelling would be incredible. And the match itself? It would be an absolute war. 2 super heavyweights with legitimate beef, fighting with an intensity we rarely see anymore. But here's my concern, and tell me if you agree in the comments: is WWE playing with fire here? Are they creating a monster in Bronson Reed that they won't be able to control? Because once you book someone as this dangerous, as this unpredictable, how do you rein them back in without making them look weak? The wrestling world is in shock right now. Social media is exploding. Fans are divided between those calling for Reed's head and those praising him for bringing real edge back to WWE. Wrestlers from other companies are commenting, saying this is either the most brilliant angle they've seen in years or the most irresponsible display of violence in wrestling. Me, I'm somewhere in the middle. As a fan, I'm captivated. I can't look away. I need to know what happens next. But as someone who cares about these performers' well-being, I'm genuinely concerned. There's a line between compelling television and reckless endangerment, and I'm not sure which side of that line this falls on. What I do know is this: Bronson Reed just changed the entire landscape of WWE. He's made himself the story. He's created a buzz that money can't buy. And whether this was the plan all along or something that spiraled out of control, we're all watching now. We're all invested. We're all waiting to see what happens when Bron Breakker opens his eyes and remembers who put him in that hospital bed. So here's my final question, and I need you to answer this in the comments: when Bron Breakker returns and faces Bronson Reed one-on-one, who wins that match? And more importantly, how far should WWE let them go to settle this? Drop your answers below, smash that like button if this situation has you as fired up as it has me, and subscribe to Wrestling Zone 1 because we're going to be covering every single development in this story as it unfolds. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because this is the conversation everyone needs to be having right now. The war has just begun, and we're all witnesses to what might be the most brutal rivalry of the year.